and with one voice we would cry, "Oh, don't!" "But look at this little fisherman with a glass fish on the string," she would insist. "Oh, don't!" we would say again. My mother warned us to take care. We wouldn't be allowed back if we broke anything, she would say, packing everything carefully into wooden crates. The rolled-up tapestry with the pictures from Il Seraglio, the stuffed squirrel, even the frosted glass lamps. "Do you really want to sit in candlelight?" "Well, we certainly don't want to sit in the light of those lamps." And she carried everything down to the cellar. Any furniture that Margot took a dislike to had to be covered in white dust sheets. We would laugh as the things vanished under their covers, pretending that we had magicked them away. Finally, cheered on by her friends and relations, Margot would tour the house with a soup spoon full of smouldering incense to smoke out the ghosts of the basse classerie, at least for the duration of our stay. Liberated from its cornucopia of elaborate glass ornaments, the Ibach Grand could now be opened. Anyone who could play the piano was allowed to bang out the Radetzky March or a droll bit of the Romanian Rhapsody, while the rest of us clapped and shouted, fired up by the shrill notes of the out-of-tune instrument. Then we sat around the big table, on chairs and stools, leaning against one another in exhaustion, frozen in thought. A picture in chiaroscuro. Thinking back to the scene, I am inevitably reminded of Rembrandt's painting, The Anatomy Lesson of Dr. Nicolas Tolp. A solemn-looking gathering, dressed for the anatomical theatre, all gazing pensively in different directions, only that on our table, instead of a corpse awaiting post-mortem, there was a plate heaped with biscuits, chiefly the sponge fingers I was so fond of. I used to dunk them in red raspberry lemonade, while the shadow of death lurked just out of sight, behind the brass plates on the high walls. "Have a look around, darling," Margot would say, deeply moved. "It's almost like old times." "Wonderful," I said fervently, to please her, or perhaps just to give myself courage, because out of the corner of my eye, I thought I saw some of the shrouded furniture shift almost insensibly. What startled me most was the groan of the parquet, a dull creak beneath the carpet, and the preposterous absence of that creak when we moved on. I remember the chill of that house, the musty smell, and the heady mixture of incense and ladies' perfumes. I also remember that the candles were always going out, blown out by a draught, or by a mischievously inclined guest. Our guests were comfortingly noisy. They spoke and laughed a great deal, traipsed all over the house, made late-night pots of tea, played cards, and then set off on midnight walks, returning soon afterwards amid riotous laughter and exaggerated cries of, "Shh, we're making too much noise." Then one of them would start to sing, "Zitti, zitti," and the others would fall about laughing. This zitti zitti came from an anecdote told by one of our guests, Geo, a baritone at Bucharest Opera House. Geo had told us about a performance of Rigoletto in which the choir had to carry such a heavy ladder across the stage in the abduction scene that they were out of breath even before they began to sing, and when they tried to intone the quiet aria, Zitti, zitti, moviamo a vendetta, the intense effort required to make any sound at all sent the words bursting out of them in a roar. Zitti, zitti, softly, softly, we seek our revenge. This raucous softly, softly was so startling that the audience broke into peals of laughter. And so it became a favourite game of Margot and the guests, along with blowing out candles, to creep up on each other and sing, "Softly, softly, we seek our revenge," at the tops of their voices. Then, of course, there was the river that ran through the forest behind the villa and was sometimes dyed red because of the nearby mill. When this happened, one or other of the guests could always be relied upon to appear on the balcony and cry with outstretched hand and quivering voice,